Welcome, welcome, business owning moms, to my coveted maternity leave planning roadmap. I'm your host, Alyson Caffrey, and today I'm going to talk about community because community is one of the most undervalued things in business and in motherhood, I personally believe. I got this magnet from my mom one time. And she was like, "So I'm waiting for my village, but is there like a number to call or something?" And I remember like her giving me this magnet after she and I had just chatted on the phone about how I felt like everybody talks about this village. Like it takes a village to raise a baby and all these other things. And legitimately, like day to day, it feels so much like it's just you. And especially running a business, like when everything comes through you, it's really, really tough. And I remember feeling this way and after, my first son Frank was born. And it's so, so, so challenging to feel like there should be this community or you should have all of this support, but you kind of don't. And there's a couple of things I want to kind of just unpack about this topic. So, first of all, not having a community in the traditional sense, like, we live in Colorado. Neither of our parents, mine or Steve's, live nearby. And our kids are 4 and 3. So they need tons of time, tons of attention, tons of stimulation and activities and all the things. And to be totally frank, sometimes I feel like I have the bandwidth for it. And other times I feel like I want to take them over to Lifetime and let them play with the kids while I sit down and answer a couple of emails or I go take a yoga class or something like that, right? And then, yeah, some other days I'm like, oh, yeah, let's get up and go to the zoo today. Or let's go to Shields and ride the Ferris wheel. But nonetheless, there are going to be times where you really feel like you've got it, like on a personal level. And then there's going to be times where you'll want to get some support from a community. So there's obviously two things I will say about this. Number one is you can lone wolf some things in motherhood. And I think it's really, really important to establish that sense of self in motherhood because in my early months and honestly, even years of being a mom, I looked outside of myself for most questions that I had about motherhood because I was so new to things and I didn't have my confidence yet. And it was really, really, really challenging to find the solutions that felt good to me when I was constantly externalizing my power as a mom. And I know for some of you first time mamas, you might be currently expecting or trying to conceive right now. And you're like, how am I supposed to have my lone wolf situation going on or like my mother intuition? And, I'm so new at this. I don't know what's going on. Trust yourself and set that time aside to just listen to your inner voice. I think for me, I was always so used to more, 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 right? We live in an age where we can Google something, we can listen to a podcast, we can read a book, we can do whatever we want to do. But how often are we just sitting and being and listening and processing? I believe that a lot of what we have natively as mothers, our intuition, our ability to process big decisions, it does live inside of us. I'm not saying that you shouldn't go and get educated on something. Absolutely believe in that. Absolutely believe in learning and admitting that we don't know everything and allowing outside opinion into your life, when it feels helpful. And I think to keep ourselves in check and make sure that we're not going down a path, either in our business or in motherhood, that doesn't necessarily support the things that we want in life, are just to be still, to sit, to breathe, to process. I think having something like this a couple of times per month is super helpful. I'm not like a weekly practice with this type of person. There are some weeks where I'm like, things are great. I don't need to think about anything. I just need to do. And so then I'll just do that and I don't feel bad about it. But there are definitely some times where I feel like almost runaway train ish. And I'm like, wow, there's like lots of decisions I need to make now, or it feels like lots of decisions I need to make now. Let me just sit and like process these. Or I'll like go out for a long walk without my headphones. I'll just like be and silent. That is super helpful. The second is have a community of people who like actually understand what you're going through. And I know that lots of folks talk about home care. There's a whole probably separate episode I can do on, whether or not to hire a nanny or put your kiddo in daycare or ask mom to come over and support for a couple hours a week. That all is again figure outable. Like you can do that in any shape or form in any season that you want. But having a community of people who actually understand what you're going through, it can be in person, it can be digital, it can be whatever it is that you want. I've created this inside of Bond, and it's so helpful to have a space where folks are doing the things that you're doing and are wanting to achieve the things that you want to achieve. I personally remember when we were living in Pennsylvania, our house at the time was like 3,000 square feet plus the full finished basement. And it was too much house. Like, I'll never have a house that big again, honestly. It's just, we're very like, we don't have a lot of things. Like, our spaces are very small. We like to spend a lot of time together. And, I was struggling with the level of clean that my house was. And I remember having a family member, very well meaning, over our home. And they were like, well, you just need to like get used to a different level of clean, or you think that it's too important for the house to be clean. And I remember sitting with that advice and I didn't like it. I was like, no, I like my house to be a certain level of clean and I don't want to sacrifice that. And so I decided to have somebody come in. Well, Steve and I decided to have somebody come in and help me with the cleanliness of our home. So we hired a home house cleaning crew. And a lot of people in our family had a couple things to say about that. They didn't love that. I guess for whatever reason, they didn't like my decision or our decision to hire someone to come in and clean our home for us. And at the end of the day, I took it to a mastermind community that I was in with other mom business owners. And I was like, hey, I just hired a house cleaner. And I remember getting like an emphatic round of applause. Everybody was like, yay, Allie, this is so wonderful. And I felt so seen in that moment because I knew that I was doing the thing that felt intuitively right to me as a human being and as a business owner and as a mom and for our family. Like we talked about it for several months. And when I finally took that plunge, all of the folks that were in like my traditional community, right, like our family setting, they just like didn't really understand why I had done that, why I couldn't just sacrifice my house being clean for being with my kids. And I was like, no, actually, I can't fully be with my kids and be present unless the house is tidy. I'll feel this pull to like start cleaning up everything. So having a community of people who totally understand your situation and totally understand some of the decisions that you need to make as a mom and a business owner, especially in service of your time. I mean, it took me a full day and sometimes even a full day and a half if I did like a deep clean of anything, like if I cleaned out the fridge or I cleaned the washroom or any of those things. Like it took me so long to clean this house. And then I was also working 4 days a week at the time. So then I would have, 1 to 1.5 days of cleaning. And then that literally left like 2 days a week where I was like with my kids for the full time. And I was like, that's not enough for me. Like, I want the full 4 days of like being with my kids. And of course, like there are other things that we need to be doing. But I just want to say, like, when you find a community of people who can support the things that you are going through, who understand exactly what you're doing, and then you block in that time to like lone wolf it and like process some of the decisions or like the direction or the wants and desires that you personally have, and you can like marry those two together, that's when motherhood and business ownership starts to feel honestly really fulfilling, really rewarding, and really exciting because then you're not in a constant position where you feel like you're being met with judgment or a lot of shoulds or a lot of, eyes and things that, passive aggressive comments. It just honestly feels cleaner and you can be in a position where, you can feel comfortable and confident with your decisions and then you can go into a setting in your traditional community and be like, hey, this was a decision that we made for our family. And I'm currently not inviting any outside outside opinions, which is harder than it sounds, I will totally admit. But your community is so, so, so important. And consider that your intuition as a mom, I mean, everybody talks about how much stronger it gets and how much louder it gets and the feelings in your body are a little bit different and all these different things. Like Spend some time getting to know that part of you. And, it might not always be something that you're like totally comfortable with. So, I talk about, later here in the series about taking a beat. Like, take a beat, have a moment where you can just like be with yourself, have a professional come in, talk with a therapist, somebody that you really trust that can kind of lead you through this process. But I truly, truly believe that your community now is so important because the decisions that you're making are obviously going to affect, your family, your well-being, the growth trajectory of your business. If you are struggling to find your community, we've totally built one. It's called Bond and it's incredible. So you can go over to mastermaternityleave.com/bond to learn more about what we do. I'm live with mamas every other week and we have a wonderful community of women who are encouraging, supporting each other on the path to taking maternity leave and really creating a solid business after baby and balancing all the things. So I would love to see you in there. And in the meantime, I hope you guys are enjoying the series and I'll see you on the next episode.